which means America will be where Mexico is, and the equator, in all probability, will pass through Cuba and southern Mexico, not South America. Okay? Some places will be moved south and some north, but the pattern of the ocean currents that warm and cool our Earth and our planet will change completely, and Antarctica will not be at the South Pole. And the coronal mass ejection is coming. Believe me, a world built on sand, silicon, as it says in the Bible. If a man builds a house on sand, it will fall. We have built a civilization on silicon chips. The internet, 666, right? This is an example of the actual size of the coronal mass ejection compared to the size of Earth. This is the movement of the North Pole. Here's another map that shows the years of the movement of the pole. And the magnetosphere, of course, stops the Bow-shock wave of the solar wind, the cosmic rays, X-rays, zeta particles, cosmic background radiation. Now, I want to talk about Obamacare, because I was specifically asked by Brian to do this. And I'm a member of the American Association of Physicians and Surgeons. I've been for years. A warrior. And if you aren't a warrior, get out of the place. Because let me tell you, just like Gideon, he didn't want the 10,000 that said, yeah, I'll fight. He wanted, yeah, I'll fight. And they pulled their sword out. They lapped up the water like a dog because they kept their eyes looking forward, not thinking, well, I think Obama might be the answer. No, Obama's part of the problem. We can pray for him. And if we pray for him, God will give us closure. He'll either remove him by not assassination. We're not calling for assassination. We want him removed legally so we don't have martial law in this country. The Association of Physicians and Surgeons filed a suit on March 26, which, when they passed this by 4 votes, the party line, 34 Democrats vote against it, by the way, forcing patients to buy insurance. If this health bill becomes law, subject physicians to greater control, deter innovation, impoverish patients, enrich insurance companies, eliminate growing markets for self-paying patients, bankrupt governments, of course that's what they want, and cause physicians to stop. 1/3 of doctors, 29 to 34%, depending on the poll, will quit medicine because they're close enough to retirement to say, hell, I don't want to do this anymore. And the number of things you can go to jail for, including clawbacks and having all your money taken away, or just going bankrupt because they're saying to the, it's like telling a hamburger maker, you got to sell that $3 hamburger for $2. Well, guess what? If it costs you $3 to make it, you're out of business. Right? And the reason why you're out of business is because the costs are driven up because of the big pharma drug companies, the big medical insurance. If you had to negotiate with doctors directly, everything would be a reasonable price, and the doctors who were the best would train you so you'd stay well. And really, we shouldn't even have a system like this. It should be like ancient Israel or China, where your priest class are your doctors. They serve the Most High God first, so God wouldn't let him near his kids unless they served him, so that they could tie a rope around their right leg when they went to the Holy of Holies on Yom Kippur. And if they were unrighteous, God killed them on the spot, and their dead carcass was hollowed after so many minutes because they knew how long it took to pray the prayers. If they didn't hear you singing the prayers because it's a cappella, then they hauled out your dead carcass because you didn't make the grade. So forcing people to pay, that's what's going to happen. And this is what the picture, this is Obamacare. Obamacare, time is death panel time. If you don't believe it, you will feel it. If you look at the ancient world, 3 shars, magnetic reversal, civilization collapse, ozone hole, ancient Mesopotamia, the rise of the ancient Sumerian, Hittite, Egyptian, Chinese, Mesoamerican, stone, and then, of course, the rise in the current era of the Nazi Sabbatean projects. We live in a Nazi world, a world not of Nazism, but of Zionism. We're not talking about biblical Zionism where they return because the Messiah has brought them back. All the Torah Jews know they're not to return to the land of Israel until Messiah returns. Not the Imam Mahdi, not Krishna. The Most High God will return, but he has to return in your hearts first. And hopefully today, the day of repentance, as it says in Malachi, will be the start, that the Messiah will return in your hearts. Without that, there will be no intervention on this earth. We're marching toward World War III. We have the Israelis with at least 8 German-made submarines with nuclear weapons aimed at Iran. We have these interventions under Rachel Corrie and the massacre last week of civilians in the Turkish ship that was brought in there for aid, trying to break the blockade. We have the open-air prison by these Sabbatean Satanists who call themselves Jews, and if Jesus Christ was here with his cat of nine tails, he'd rip the flesh off their faces, and he'd spit on them, and he would be righteous. And if you don't feel that anger and rage toward what the Israelis are doing right now and can't defend them, they cannot be defended. We have an open-air prison, and I am a Cohen of Jewish descent, and I am abhorred. In fact, I read one report by one of the men who hired the Rachel Corrie, and the other ship, the ship before, the Turkish ship, and he was Jewish. And he said, I won't practice my faith anymore because I can't stomach what the Israelis are doing to the Palestinians. So he stopped practicing his faith, and he hired this film crew guy from Maine. And you know what happened? The Israelis beat him nearly to death, this American citizen, because he wouldn't submit. So we have the 2008 bailout, and of course it's seamless with the Goldman Sachs, I call them the Gold Sachs, casino world economy collapsing, and then Obama massive, too big to fail, Jesuit run, and of course Santa Clara, the Silicon Valley, St. Clair, of course, the castle where the Knights Templar fled Europe after the death of their illustrious leaders and their high-level satanic masons. The bankers that later were the same people at the Council of Nine of King Herod Agrippa became the black nobility of Florence, and became the bankers of Europe, and became the Bowers, and later changed their name to Rothschilds, the bagmen for the Vatican. It's one thing to have all the money in the world. It's another thing to own the printing press that makes the money. It's another thing to own the man that owns the printing press. And then it's another to actually own the printing press, the man, and the money. And that's the Vatican. And if you don't think that they control this world, you're a fool. And you can follow the way. The Treaty of 1263 Britain was completely passed over to Britain, to the Vatican. The IMF is an agency of the United Nations. The IRS is a U.S., not a U.S. corporation, but an agency of the IMF. And the IMF is completely under control of the United Nations, and 57 nations vote as a bloc from the British Commonwealth, and are under total control of the kings of England, the Queen, and the Duke, totally under the control of the Jesuits. And if you don't think so, check out the facts. Cap and trade. Obama. This is coming. It's already been passed in California in 2006, and they have a bill passed last year. They want to have a Senate bill passed before the summer recess. The final coffin nail, the 9-inch coffin nails in the American economy. They wanted a value-added tax. Don't be surprised if they get rid of even the regular income tax, or tell you they'll get rid of it, but they won't. Just like in Canada, they didn't get rid of the income tax when they brought in the GST, the government services tax. Spiritual connections, prepare to survive, get out of debt, start planning bartering, get skill sets, start prayer. And I'm not talking about starting another church. Start prayer at your homes. Be a home church. And don't call yourself a denomination or try to become another avatar of some great new faith. Please, the earth does not need any more new religions. God, if he came back here, would say, the only religion is relationship and love. And if you have no spirituality, throw it away. Better to be a well-meaning atheist in a dying world than a religionist with no spirituality. Currency is utility. Just like we heard from Ronald McDonald today, money should not be a dead instrument, the reverse of real wealth. Recycle all things. We have limitless energy technologies. We could recycle everything. A world of nations where the nation state is sovereign on many things, but we come collectively together to deal with global issues. But we don't wipe out the nation state, which is what the IMF will do. The nation states will be just like the stretched skins over a Terminator beast system, the mark of the beast. And America will just be a brand name on a shelf. And the 7 laws of man. The transformation of man, of course, is tied to the identity. What is man? What is consciousness? Consciousness is being still enough to hear the spirit inside us and the spirits of the living plants in our yards and our gardens and our trees. It's silent enough to know that others are our brothers and sisters, not only the great whales of the world and the trees and valleys, just like the native peoples know and the shamans know because they can see in the spirit realm. And you don't need to take ayahuasca. You don't need to take DMT. You don't need to take mind-altering things. You need to be silent and slay the first dragon, the ego. The spiritual release of technologies, too, and the real answer is Without the release of the spirit of man, this is not the age of technology. This is the age of the spirit of Aquarius, the living waters. The thriving civilizations terraforming Mars and the cosmic commerce across a vast universe, folding time, space, and leaping across the galaxy. Unlimited energy, information technologies, and nations that have access to technologies that are now told that you have to use elephant dung instead of charcoal so their children die of pneumonia from ammonia burns. Ability to sustain and recycle an ecological balance and respect other life forms. The great whales that are being slaughtered because we won't even move our shipping lanes. And they move through shipping lanes and just bump into our ships and we rip them to pieces. Transformation of man is the identity, genetics, consciousness, property, commerce, environment, and of course the center of it all is the spirituality of love. As Len Horowitz has said, and again remember, we're dealing with the same archetypes as it says in the Bible of the times of the falls of the walls of Jericho. It was a symbol, an object lesson to us. And the Jews, which means praisers, not the bankers. The Jews were the musicians that blew the 528 and all the harmonic music, the songs of God. And they marched around the city every day, and then the last day they went around 7 times. And the walls fell, not because the army did great things or lobbed weapons, but because the spirituality of the Hebrews was transformed. That's what we need today. We don't need to elect the right person, have the right leader, or think that I'm better than you or anyone else. We need to be the best that God made us to be. We need to receive our name, our spiritual trajectory, and then the nation will rise just like bricks rise and become a great wall. Without the right bricks, nothing can be built. Man is an advanced spirit being having physical, collective experiences on our plane of energy and space-time. Man is controlled and has been controlled by higher order, malevolent, trans-dimensional beings, whether you say they're from, Sirius B, or you say they're from a trans-dimensional universe or whatever. Think of a world where we're just come out of the delivery room, and we're dealing with beings that are trillions or billions or thousands or millions of years old, with technologies and mind technologies, spirit technologies are so much more advanced. And there are good out there, and there are malevolent evil, and we are in a star war, a spirit war, where technology is not king, but the spirit and the identity of what we are is. That's why the whole cosmos is looking at our little blue planet, our little sapphire planet Earth. Man has fallen before through the dark empire of Lucifer and his civilizations. The transformation will change the fundamental nature of mankind. And the 21st century, man is trying to self-transform himself by altering genetics, not to heal disease like Down syndrome or genes that cause high cholesterol, which is good, but they want to create cross-species hybridization. Literally like out of the book of Enoch, the book of Jasher. These are evil. And if you don't think they're trying to create super soldiers, and I was told this when they tried to recruit me in 1977 to work at UCLA at the VA hospital. I was going to work under Dr. Wallace Tortolot with microwires, planting them in specific nuclei in the brain, like the rage control nucleus, etc. But they want to genetically hybridize and transform genes like the actin-myosin genes from jackals that are 12 times the crushing force of a lion. They want to transport genes so they can have the sight of an eagle. They want to have the speed of an asp. They want to have the ability to rip your heart out of your chest with their bare hands, with nanotech body armor on, brain-actuated weapon systems, and tied into a battlefield matrix. And if you don't see the Terminator coming, you're not in reality. Those movies were not just meant to massage you, they were meant to make you manifest that reality in our soon future. 2020 is a nano-information biocogno reality that's coming. Morgellons disease, and I was the one who came up with the idea that it was a terraforming, self-replicating, silicon-based nanomachine, literally to translate new genetic sequences, because DNA is a crystal, as Dr. Len Horowitz says. It is a crystallized, receiving through the living waters, which is the hexahedron water molecule, the superconductor of information, transferring through phonon-maser operons, the switching on and off gene complexes, of the concentration of biomolecules and enzymes to create the hologram of you, which is a crystal image in your DNA. And what they're doing is Morgellons disease manifests pathogens that can insert new genes and terraform you genetically. If you don't think that this is a foreshock of a global invasion, You're not